Going to Prime Minister Scott Morrison speaking in Sydney.
Very long time. And can I thank Colin, can I thank everybody who's involved in the Lifeline family. And I think that was a key message that came across to me today when he was this is a family of volunteers, of community, which is just showing that love of a family to Australians all around the country. Yes, we're here in Gordon and the leafy North Shore suburbs of Sydney, but the calls being taken here are being taken from all around the country. They're being taken by people who are flood victims up in the northern rivers of New South Wales, or people who have just come off shifts in the mines up in Western Australia, or down in Tasmania. Wherever they're calling from, they're calling into here and centres just like this all around the country. You know, each year some 65,000 Australians attempt suicide. Just let that figure sink in. 65,000 Australians attempt suicide, and sadly over 3,000 Australians die by suicide. And that equates to the loss of sort of 9 Australians every day to suicide. These statistics you can write on a page, but they're the lived experience of so many families and communities all around this country. And with every one of not just those 3,000 fatal cases, but those other 65,000 cases, just then multiply that into the friends and the family and the communities that are around them. And this is something that impacts on our society right across the country. There is no part of this country that is not touched by mental health issues, no part of the country which is not touched by the threat of suicide ideation, or indeed deaths by suicide. You can be from any walk of life. It doesn't respect your bank account, your gender, your ethnicity, your language, your job, your age. It doesn't respect any of that. It can come and touch anyone, anywhere in this country. And that's why I've made this a very important priority of my government. Right from the outset, when we appointed the National Suicide Prevention Advisor, right from the outset when we adopted our Towards Zero goal. And there are many parts of the government and the agencies we support that play a role in that effort. And Lifeline is a very important one of them. We have funded some $2.3 billion just in the last budget over the next 4 years for the National Mental Health and Suicide Plan. Mental health investment is of some $6.5 billion in our health portfolio now. $6.5 billion spent every single year, and that number is going up, and that is up from $3.3 billion when we first came to government. Our government has always taken this issue incredibly seriously, and the community has likewise, and this works together. We were talking before around the table. More people are talking about mental health at the moment, and that is fantastic. But it also means that there's a great awareness, and more people need to be equipped to hear and respond and deal with these issues. And we've seen this accentuated during the course of the pandemic. As we stared into the abyss of the pandemic, we knew of the many threats, the risk to life, the risk to people's livelihoods, the economic damage and toll that would be taken. But we also could see beyond those immediate things and see this is going to impact people's families. It's going to impact their isolation. It's going to impact their mental well-being. And it's going to put stresses on people in this country that we haven't experienced for a very, very long time. And so we were very concerned. And that's why we responded with record levels of investment into services just like Lifeline, whether it was Beyond Blue or Kids Helpline, or any of the important mental health services that are provided around the country. Can I tell you, they responded. The more we pumped into them, the higher their calls went up. Some 22.3% calls to Lifeline increased between 2019 and 2021. 1.2 million calls for help in this financial year. Now, this is an extraordinary level of response. So, from 2019 to 2021, there were 1.2 million calls. So this was a very big increase. And what happened during the pandemic was that despite this greater need, we did not see the level of suicide in the country rise. We actually saw it fall at a national level, at a macro level. Now, I know in particular communities and particular places that is going to be different. But as a nation, during one of the biggest pressures and threats to people's mental health in this country we've seen since the Second World War, likely, we actually saw the rate of suicide in this country actually decline. And the people who did that are on the phone right now. They are the lifesavers. I've just come from a surf lifesaving club in my own electorate town in Cronulla. They have lifesavers of a different kind down there. But they could be just as much wearing those red and yellow hats in there right now, because they're out there saving lives on those calls every hour of the day, 24/7. And that's why, as we've seen Lifeline respond to the challenge of this crisis, and we've seen how amazing the organisation is, we want to be able to stay at the level of capability that they've risen to and go further. And so today we're announcing an additional $52.3 million in government funding over 4 years in the budget, which will be handed down by the Treasurer, to enable Lifeline to meet that increased demand for crisis support and suicide prevention. This is combined with an extension of the annual funding of $15.5 million per year. That means over the next 4 years, Lifeline's core crisis service will have a support of some $114.2 million. Now, that is a vote of confidence in the volunteers who I've had the privilege to meet today, in the services and support that sit around Lifeline. We see Lifeline as an essential partner in our Towards Zero goal on suicide prevention in this country. And I want to thank them all again. I want to thank you, John, for your leadership of the organisation and all of those who are involved. They are great Australians. It'd be great if we could give every single one of them an AO or something like that. But, you know...
I'll tell them you said.
I'm about to get a lot of applications. But, you know, having met with them today, it's not why they come. They're not looking for a award. They pay to be trained. They pay to volunteer and be here. And so they're not looking for the recognition, but I'm pleased to offer it because they are great Australians.